Good morning, everyone. It is, let's see, what is it? Wednesday, June 21st, 11 o'clock. We are convening the Public Health and Safety Committee of the Topeka City Council. I want to call the meeting to order at this point and introduce those present. We have just two of us on the committee this morning. Introduce yourself, and I will mine.
Spencer Duncan, representing District 8. Is this a quorum?
It is not.
It'll get back to me.
Okay, and that's fine.
It is not. So if you need to take any formal action, a third person will have to appear.
Just wasn't sure. Thank you.
And I'm Karen Hiller from District 1. I'm chairing the committee. We do have two action items today, the minutes as well as the retaliatory eviction ordinance. Councilwoman Valdivia Alcala was called away at the last minute, but has said that she could be available by Zoom for a 15-minute window in our meeting. So what we'll do is hold approving the minutes until that time, as well as the retaliatory eviction ordinance. And Councilman, I simply didn't know, because we haven't talked about it in advance, whether you would have questions or concerns. If you do and feel like you or we are not ready to vote on it today, we don't have to do that. Otherwise, we're teed up to forward it to council out of this meeting. So
I mean, I've read it, looked at it before. We've had some discussion previously.
Well, we'll do a quick update on it and when we get there. So with that, we'll go ahead. I want to go ahead and introduce the others who are here. Welcome our special guests, for instance, Acting City Manager Richard Nienstedt. Thank you so much for helping the city and for being here at our committee meeting. And also Kristen Moorhead, raise your hand. She'll probably be at this head table maybe from here on out. She has just been appointed as the program project manager for us for the Changing Our Culture of Property Maintenance Initiative. And we are grateful to have her, me especially, but all of us, I think, she's well positioned to do that, has her fingers already in the homeless initiatives that are going on that are certainly related. So, and if the others who are at mics would introduce themselves real quickly, and then we'll get back to you on the agenda.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Administrative Judge Corinne Tadani here representing the municipal court.
Amanda Stanley, City Attorney.
Monique Lay, Division Director of Communication.
And in the back, we have also Carrie Higgins. She's not at a mic. You don't have to get up, from Housing Division, which is great to have you here, and Liz Toyne, who supports the council staff. So thank you all for being here. And with that, we will roll. Holding number 2 for the minutes for a moment. We'll get right into a focus today on changing our culture of property maintenance and some updates. What we have with Changing Our Culture is, for those who have seen it, a huge work plan that came out of the council initiative as well as the Karen Black study. And so when it shook down with our previous project manager, there are 4 pages of 11 by 17 small print with timelines and objectives and assignments for what's happening with this program. This is our our second meeting of the year, and what we're looking at doing is being able to update on various of those issues, maybe not more than 3 or 4 per meeting, so that it's manageable and our heads don't explode. But also, we have a website going, Change Our Culture of Property Maintenance, which the communications staff has done, and we're expecting to add an accomplishments section in there so that as we've actually completed items, we will list them there, check them off on our work plan and list them there on that website, just so everybody knows how we're sort of keeping track. As Monique is nodding, we'll get her up here shortly. She is a lead on the action. We really have 2 teams. We have an action team, which is doing our mowing and our community engagement processes. And then there are a variety of teams that are doing policy. And Monique is going to report for that action team today on how we're doing with the mowing program this summer.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. So currently we have 18 potential opportunities on United Way Call Valley Topeka Volunteers portal. And what that means is we have 18 of our low to moderate income neighbors who have identified themselves of needing assistance and not having anyone locally to be able to assist. With that, on April the 4th, we had one match. So we've had one volunteer to be able to say, yes, I would be more than happy to be able to assist someone, and they've taken care of that volunteer need. We've had 30 inquiries on mowing vendors. We've been very fortunate to have 5 local mowing vendors who have said we'll give a little bit of a discounted rate to those LMI neighbors who need some assistance, and so we've been able to pass out that information to 30 of our LMI neighbors. We've also had 5 of those vendors, they ranging from $25 to $40 per lawn, depending on the size, who have said yes and have stepped up to be able to provide that service, which we're very appreciative of. Very exciting. In the last few days, we've had 2 individuals who have said, I will mow in my neighborhood. So we have a potential volunteer in the Historic Holiday Park neighborhood, and then we also have one over on Southeast Peck who's interested, but they're only interested in helping their local neighbors because of transportation concerns. And the last bit of information that I have for you, which is very exciting, that I found out at 6:08 this morning, is that we have a corporate mowing group that has said they're interested in helping. So I am just waiting for that contact again today so we can talk a little bit more details. I'll have more to share with you probably in the next few days, but definitely next month I can provide that update. So we're really ecstatic about that opportunity.
Thank you so much. We've also done one recognition, is that right?
Yes.
You want to talk about that for a
Sure.
second?
Are we speaking of the recognition last fall?
There was one this summer where there was a drawing prize to try and get information, to get,
Sure, and I don't have a lot of details, unfortunately, because
Okay.
I'd have to
Well,
put
we'll catch that
over to
from Gretchen
communications.
next
yes,
time.
Yes, absolutely, if you don't mind. But community engagement has been ecstatic to be able to assist, to be able to provide some initiatives and some prizes to tell our volunteers thank you. So hopefully that will ignite some more of our Topekans to say, yes, they'll help their neighbors.
so anybody who's watching this program can call what number?
Sure, 785-368-9035?
9530.
9530, sorry, I mixed it up with my other initiative, I apologize.
I have practiced
Somebody
that
just
enough.
9530, yes, 785-368-9530, thank you.
All right. Any questions for Monique about how this is going?
Oh, if I can remember how to turn these off and on. It's not used to having to be able to do that. It's
I know, it's nice.
Yeah, I'm just curious. I mean, this is, I guess, it is our second year of that program, but it's what I'll call the first full-on year because last year was new and we're still trying to educate, but I mean, it was kind of early and pulling people. I'm curious what the repeat from the people who started the program last year, did
Sure.
most of them carry over into this year?
So we
and
have-
what that looks like?
Yes, sir, so we have 21 from last year, they're still in the portal that still need some assistance as well. So we have a total of 39.
Okay, so we've been able to at least keep them in the full. And then
Absolutely.
What about the reverse of that, the folks who are willing to
And I'm sorry.
participate and help in the program?
And so with that, we called, I'll respond to this in this regard. Of the 21, we responded to all of them as soon as we had mowing vendors and were able to contact them to provide that information. And 11 of those said they would utilize a mowing vendor. So they were thrilled to be able to have that opportunity. At $25, I believe that vendor has really been pretty busy lately. Otherwise, I keep in contact with them to let them know, to inquire, to ask if you'd like to stay on the list, keeping them encouraged. They are just really appreciative to be able to have the potential opportunity.
Sure, no, perfect, thank you.
You're most welcome.
When you were talking about the referrals and the acceptances regarding the vendors, is that the people from last year or the 30 calls from this year?
It's all of them.
Okay. Because one of the things that's exciting about that, and I don't like having the people in the queue, but what we're having a hard time tracking is, and then staff has done a wonderful job of setting up a form that's on that Changing Our Culture of Property Maintenance page that allows you to ask for help, to volunteer to help, to report that you mowed your own yard for the first time ever, or that you mowed somebody else's, or you mowed 5, or whatever it is. We've set up the recognitions as a way to hopefully draw in more of those self-reported mows. And we'll have John Chardine from Code here next month, because what you heard Monique talk about was that they referred the low-cost vendors to the callers. We may or may not catch those numbers in terms of accomplishments for this, but our goal was not to set up a program for the city forever. Our goal was to get people hooked up with somebody in their neighborhood or somebody that they knew who could mow for them regularly, or get the confidence to do the mowing themselves so that they were simply self-sustaining or taking care of each other. And so when they refer to the vendors, we may or may not ever get the follow-up report, but that's really was our goal, was to see that connection happen. I know that one lady I referred in just recently needed some help clearing off vines and growth and so on, and she said she had a little money, so I gave her that number, and she would be one of the ones I think that you referred out.
Absolutely, she was.
No obligation if you're not prepared, but do we have any reports already on our partners?
We do not.
Okay,
First report's due on July 1st.
okay, so
Yes.
next month,
Yes.
we'll get caught up on how OmniCircle's doing and the other neighborhood partners. Thank you.
You're
Any
most
more
welcome.
questions, even from staff, since we got everybody here? Okay, I can't see you, Carrie, so you'll have to yell. Okay. Okay. Next, we've got some policy team reports. This committee passed out an ordinance updating one of our local ordinances last fall regarding LLCs as well as repeat offenders. Amanda Stanley is here. She crafted that and has carried it. And it's going to give us an update on how it's going.
Yes, thank you, Councilwoman. In your packet, I believe Liz added, it just got skipped out of the packet for some reason, a memo from our Chief of Prosecution talking about the success of the LLC ordinance. And I would be remiss if I did not say that this is something that I am very proud of my staff in the legal department for their hard work on this. We were moving offices and I was cleaning out paper, and discussions of what to do with property owners that would not appear in municipal court goes back a very long time in the city attorney's office. And so this was really a tool that we needed. And so when former Councilman Lesser challenged me to figure out a way to deal with that, and we started talking, this was a combination effort of our civil litigators, Mary Feeney, who knows more than anybody ever should possibly know, our Chief of Prosecution, Kelly Trussell, everybody getting on board to say there has to be a solution, even if we have to innovate it ourselves, and going to state law to find that there was a solution out there that we could model it off of has been very successful. In talking to my Chief of Prosecution today, we're going to get you quarterly numbers to show you success rates, but she said the biggest thing that it has changed is people are showing up. The number of no-shows in court has significantly decreased because it's no longer a get out of the problem free card. And so the first default judgment came down and word got out pretty fast that the city of Topeka takes it seriously, so you should probably start showing up to court. In the memo, it outlines the process that we do. It's also in our city code now, but the legal entity's resident agent is mailed a notice of their arraignment hearing date. No one appears on behalf of the entity at arraignment. The case is set on the show cause docket. The resident agent is mailed a notice of that date. If there's no appearance on the show cause where you come to say why you didn't show up, the case is set for trial in the pro se docket, and the resident agent is mailed a notice of that date. If there's no appearance at trial, default judgment is entered and the case is set for sentencing, and the resident agent is mailed a notice of that date. At the sentencing docket, we recommend the fine set out in the TMC. After conviction and sentencing, we do file new charges against the entity because the property is still in violation, so you can just keep getting charged if you would like to not fix your property. And each additional default judgment will increase the fine amounts at sentencing. So we are seeing people voluntarily come and ask, how about I just demo this property? So vacant structures that needed demos, they're voluntarily correcting issues. Property owners with significant numbers of violations are getting those properties in compliance. So it has been a very successful ordinance to date.
Thank you so much. Now, we included upping the fines and for repeat violators as well at the same time, correct?
Correct. And so especially if you get a default judgment, you haven't fixed the problem, right? So then we immediately file a next case, and if you continue to get it, your fines are going to continue to be escalated.
One of the things that prompted this request was that we had somehow, after really having a pretty long and steady history of our apartment complexes in general being in pretty good shape and well managed, we had some pretty serious violators. So that really prompted the request to you, as I recall. with those particular complexes or owners, are they some of the ones that are stepping up at this point? You don't need to name names.
I wouldn't want to comment on any particular case.
No.
I don't know the specifics. My chief of prosecution tells me entities that have significant violations are coming into compliance, but I wouldn't want to opine on any particular owner.
And I didn't want you to ask, but apartment complexes, and then we have some people that own multiple properties that have been even vacant properties or rundown buildings, right?
Correct.
Thank you. Any questions?
Well, I guess from the other side of the table, the area that's actually in charge of, I mean, how have you folks, I guess, adjusted to this and had conversations with the judges about, yes, we want to make sure this is what's being done? I mean, how has that part of it gone as we made that change?
Well, let me say that we really appreciate the teamwork that happened with the city. Judge is on next, so why don't you give your report, and then the two of you can answer questions back and forth that Councilman might have. Go ahead.
Okay, well, thank you. Ms. Stanley covered a lot of the standard operating procedure piece of it. It sounds like a lot, but from my perspective, it's a way to ensure due process. The last thing I want is a person coming to court saying, you fined me and I didn't have notice. So essentially, the way it breaks down is you're gonna have at least 3 to 4 hearings where you've had an opportunity to show up and make an appearance. If you don't do that 4 times, then we're gonna take judgment, send you a time to pay letter. If you don't do it in 30 days, then it goes to the next step of action. A little perspective, I've been in the code docket since 2017. It's sort of my baby, to say the least. It started with Chuck Kitt, but then it was me and Judge Bixel and me again in a different role. So I've got a good handle on how things are going. I brought data. Last year, we did 369 cases total, and out of those, 282 were dismissed. So if you break that down percentage-wise, that's 76%. It's pretty good. This year so far, we've done 121 code cases that have been filed, and out of those, approximately 90 have been dismissed. The one change there is the council adopted allowed us to apply a dismissal fee for completed by owner cases. So this year, for 23 cases, we have done that. So if you multiply 88 times $76, that number is approximately $6,500. So that's a little bit of the recoup we had talked about. Year prior, if you had multiplied 282 by 76, at the end of the year, you're talking about closer to 22,000. So that's some real data of what's happening. LLC ordinance-wise, I think it's working. I agree. The word is out. I think the big piece is once we take judgment, when you don't show up for trial, we still give you 30 days to come back to court before we sentence you. So if that 30 days, you want to demolish your building, you say, hey, I've got this fixed, you can reach out to Kelly Trussell at prosecution and probably work something out. So even though this is a hardline thing at the end, there's still a lot of safety measures in place to make sure the public, LLCs, they all have opportunity. And that's big from my perspective.
Yeah.
I echo the teamwork. I think the right people are in the right places. I mean, not to take anything away from who was there prior. Funny, the chief of prosecution used to be me. But Kelly Trussell, John Chardine, people that understand the mission, are easily approachable and reachable, which is important in this type of business. So yeah, from the court's perspective, I think it's been good. I think the ordinance was crafted at a good time. I was in the prosecutor's office when we had those discussions with prior city attorneys, but just kind of put the pedal to the metal. That's what Stanley likes to do, so here we are.
I guess the second piece, which wasn't related to this, but not, and I know this isn't the right word, so just be nice. But we also talked about or made the change where we could essentially bundle some of these, right? I don't know if that's the right way to word it, but are we also seeing that actually happen and have some effectiveness? Are we reaching that point with a few of these where they understand they can't play the shell game of, oh, it's just one violation here and one violation there? Are we seeing that have any impact also? Because I know these kind of came at the same time.
For some of the bigger property owners, keeping names out of it,
Right, yeah.
they have created a contact person that works with the chief of prosecution. So in that sense, when they come to docket, a lot of their cases are stacked. So we have a good opportunity to say, okay, we had 40 cases on the docket today. For example, 15 were tied to this LLC. That LLC is not present. That's, 25% of the docket that's not there.
Yeah, okay. So at least we're figuring out how to make that work, but, okay. Hopefully, long-term, I think the goal was long-term for those folks to understand they can't do that. They can't just jump around anymore, and the judge is gonna know, hey, you are a repeat offender now, not just a one-timer.
Unfortunately, for most of them, it's been the same face in that docket. So,
Well, right.
yeah,
I
there's
know.
a lot of familiarity
Yeah.
between me and certain
Yeah,
people.
sure.
Yeah, so for example, at the 26 show cause docket, there's one entity with 13 cases, and we try to put them all at once. So, okay, you got them all and knock them out, and it's much more efficient for Judge Thadani and our prosecution staff.
Yeah, okay, great.
Well, we also didn't want part of the council's objective and advocates and neighborhoods, of course, was not to see these folks dragging the code compliance staff as well as the legal staff as well as the court staff through again and again and again. That's expensive and kind of discouraging. So this is very exciting. John Chardine is on vacation this week, so he'll be on for a longer presentation last month. If you can answer this question, fine. Otherwise, we'll ask him. Obviously, part of the goal with all of that was for those things never to even get to you. And even though I personally have trouble with charging a fine to somebody who's maybe low or moderate income, on the other hand, the idea is that it's going to cost you something if it gets that far. Are you able to see yet that it's pushing these things back up the line so that they're not getting to court, or is it a little too soon?
I can tell you what I know, and I don't want to speak for John.
Right.
I can tell you from my perspective, the housing navigator piece is a new piece, and he's been working with her. She has been at every docket, and we've definitely been, certain situations have been giving out her business cards. So from my perspective, if you're asking me my report today, it would be it's a work in progress. I know it's a priority for them, but as anything with a new position, they're just trying to work the kinks out.
Well, and just for clarification, that the housing navigator position was there for folks who really might need some help getting, either because of their skills or their money or the condition of the property, in figuring out what to do to get that violation cured. So
I also don't want to speak for John, but I will say, you'll see in our legal department budget request later this year, one of the things that we consider a success is the partnership with Habitat for Humanity and their ability with their grant funding to go in and help some of our low to moderate income or elderly individuals who aren't not fixing their roof because they just don't want to roof, but because they need help. And so that has significantly helped with compliance.
that's great. Yeah, they've really, and that's really relatively new for them to have the program at all, much less the scope and capacity that they seem to have now.
Yes, Kelly Trussell, our chief of prosecution, made that contact for the city of Topeka and really reached out and said, hey, I hear you got a lot of COVID money. Let's talk. So she deserves a lot of credit for that.
Well, it's again a great example of teamwork. Any things that you all have to throw back to us, to things that maybe we need to work on further? I know I didn't ask you that in advance.
Not at this time.
We've said, for those who are new to this, it's a 5-year initiative, but we've needed to get everything started in years 1 and 2 so that we could get them rolling and get sometimes step by step, or else kind of see how it goes. So, all right. Well, John did send me, moving on then to the property maintenance updates. John, what we worked out was he would send me a memo so I could give you all some brief updates, but then he will be probably the star of the show to come and visit with us next month at our July meeting. He comments, and I'm going to kind of skip through this email. They've got a lot of moving parts. They've taken steps already to be much more transparent in their intentions to improve housing inventory and community appearance. They have modified procedures and standards to promote connectivity with the community, increase transparency and communication with constituents, and encourage collaboration between staff, other city staff, and community partners, and the Habitat one is a great example. Modifications include implementation of an educational feature for tenants. Staff must now provide the tenants with an informational packet about the Kansas Landlord-Tenant Act and instructions on how to file a complaint if needed. Property maintenance unit is now networking with weekly reports with other city departments, including scheduled abatements, condemned property locations, and demolition projects. Again, this is a lot of collaboration with police and fire on vacant structures or vacant properties. Our homeless team that Kristen has already begun working with, Carrie's EAS team, as well as housing staff. Property maintenance unit portion of the city website has been modified with additional contact information, links for resources, and a direct link to the new housing navigator. And that's been some collaboration with Monique, who's slipped out at this point, as well with community engagements. You know, some of the connective conversations that Christina and I have had as we're working this thing is, why would you have different lists? So still working on some of that. But it's really been great. Additional information has been added to clarify procedures and establish appropriate timelines to resolve active cases. So affirmatively working with those constituents. This was done in an effort to eliminate misconceptions and fallacies. You know, this is what's going to happen to you if whatever. They've created a new mission statement to align with community standards and governing bodies' values, and it reads, the property maintenance unit is dedicated to protecting the public's health, safety, and welfare through education, community engagement, and equitable enforcement of city codes and regulations as adopted by the governing body. They've set up a new email bank for constituents to use. They've amended policies to create and identify the role of the housing navigator. That is a relatively new position. We'll find out more about that and how that's going. But that person works with alternate paths for homeowners with medical or financial hardships who need resources. They will be, that person is responsible for reviewing submissions, conducting comprehensive interviews, and defining what resources or grants fit the homeowner's needs. And I know that some of the things we've talked about are pretty broad. For instance, if they don't have the money to do repairs, but they actually could take advantage of some aging assistance or some disability assistance that could then relieve some budget, you know, going that broadly to look at having their package work is really great as that's moving along. So they will, he will have some information about procedures regarding securement and abatement fees and things like that when he comes next month as well. And that's the 5-minute warning. Oh, we got her? Great. Any questions that I should forward to John that people would like to have him address next month?
Maybe.
If you think of them, let me know.
Yes.
Because he's very eager. He has jumped right on. He's very affirmative. You know, both kind of no nonsense, no, we're not messing with this, but an equally big heart to make sure that we're providing the best services that we can. So he was involved all the way back at our public information sessions very affirmatively, and so it's been great to have him be part of the team. Yeah, just let me know in advance, and we'll make sure he covers. He's got a lot to cover next month. And with that, we'll move on to the retaliatory eviction ordinance. Councilwoman Valdivia Alcala has joined us at this point, and I will pass the baton over to City Attorney Stanley.
Okay. Well, the retaliatory eviction ordinance is something you guys have seen many times over the last several months as it has been vetted. It is in substantially the same form as last time you saw it. There was one change requested by Councilwoman Hiller after some feedback from some landlord associations. That one change is on page 4, subsection A1. The words or for a purpose which is in violation of the rental agreement was added. So it's not retaliatory if you aren't fulfilling a purpose of your rent agreement. Material term of your lease agreement, sorry, can't read today. And so basically what this ordinance does is clean up a very old statute or ordinance that was on our books. It creates a process so it's clear how it is supposed to work. That has been a problem in the past. That is not clear. Who do you file with? How does it work? How does it go to court? What is the process? It spells it out very clearly. It has been vetted by prosecution, municipal court, the legal department as a whole, landlords association, renters association, tenants' rights groups. It's been through your committee several times, and I would recommend that you pass it out. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Go ahead.
No, I don't have any. I mean,
Okay.
This has been worked on for a while. I know that a lot of stakeholders were involved in this and got their feedback. Folks who operate lots of properties across Topeka and told us most of them were very positive. Others at least said we can live with it, which is fine too, for far I'm concerned, because but I think it's just another important step to help protect folks who we absolutely know fall into that category of the landlords in the city who probably should not be landlords to begin with, which is a different issue, but we've got to protect those folks, and I think this is just another step to do it. So I appreciate all the work everybody's done on this, and thank you.
Well, I want to send a shout out, kind of tagging on that too. We had the Apartment Council of Topeka as well as the Shawnee County Landlords Association. I actually did a presentation at the Shawnee County Landlords Association, then we went through their leadership, came back with a whole list of feedback. We went through Habitat, Cornerstone, sent all three of our CHOTOs that are involved in both homeownership and rentals, Housing and Credit Counseling, Inc. that does the housing counseling, tenant landlord counseling in the city. I'm going to forget one. Carrie from the Housing Department, they have, with the EAS and the work that they do, they have a lot of contact with citizens as well. And so we wanted to make sure that early on, and this is part of my background, I like to vet the things that are likely to be very contentious with everybody that might have an opinion on it way early, and give them plenty of chance to not only comment and help us make the needed adjustments if there are any, but also be familiar with it so that when it eventually is passed, they're ready to go. And we do have, as part of our packet today, the final responses. The first round was much more robust. We sent them a final round, and I appreciate that. And what Amanda was making reference to is that part of what came out of that process, for instance, it has to do with violating the code or the rental agreement. And the rental agreement sometimes includes things that aren't just in the state statute or our local ordinances. And so that was important that that both retained that responsibility throughout the process, so that the retaliation really was the focus. With that, Councilwoman Valdivia Alcala, if you have comments or you would like to make a motion to get this moving, we'd be glad to include you.
So a couple of things before moving on the vote is that, excuse me, excuse me. I just want to say great work to everyone, especially City Attorney, for her absolute commitment to this and working with us through a very tedious process. Also to Chair. But first and foremost, without Karen Black, I doubt that we would even be at the place that we are. And I think that we need to make sure and give credit where credit is due. She was a paid consultant, obviously, but her view and her understanding of the depth and the magnitude of how communities can really shift and become much more proactive and engaged and develop the needed relationship with the residents as well as other stakeholders. To me, when we look at this retaliatory eviction, this is a game changer for us. I think that if we can do this wisely and with our needed partners and a strong education component with the residents, especially those that are in very difficult rental situations right now, I think that we can lay the groundwork for other cities to look at as a model. So with that said, I mean, good work, everybody, and I move the motion to move this forward onto council.
Is there a second?
Sure. Second.
Moved and seconded. I would also note that Mary Feeney is on the Zoom with us, and Mary had a very active role, as I understand it, in getting this ready as well. So thank you, Mary. And again, just so those who are watching understand, the fundamental shift here is that the ordinance that we had before was intended to be preventive, and to say that the city would support somebody who was aggrieved. This one, we hope, will be preventive as well, but adds the hammer that the city, for a situation that meets the standards of this ordinance, will affirmatively take that property owner to court on the retaliatory charges. And that is a huge step beyond what we've had in the past. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We will move this forward to council whenever the agenda will accommodate it in July, hopefully. Thank you, Christina, for joining us. Hope the rest of your day goes well.
Do you need to
Okay.
approve the minutes before she
Approve
jumps
the-
in?
Oh, I forgot. Thank you. Yes, need a motion as well for approving the May 17 minutes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion, corrections? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Minutes are approved as well.
I'm out. Thank you, guys.
All right, thank you. All right. The last item that we've got on the agenda is to talk about vacant properties. That was to be our summer study objective. City manager had wanted to put together a staff team to manage that for us. That team has not been created yet. We have Councilman Duncan on this committee, who has taken the lead in doing land bank stuff, which is going to be looking at some of those same issues. And we have Kristen Moorhead here, who's now going to help us as a project manager for all of these things. Do we need to do any discussion on that today? I'm going to meet with Kristen tomorrow to kind of get us rolling, get her briefed up on where we are to date. Or city manager, if anybody has any input on this.
I would say that let's take a step and let staff create the group and come back to you. We do have some vacant property registration changes that need to happen from state legislation, or to preempt some stuff we got to fix. So those are ready to go, but it can be part of the broader discussion as vacant property, so we can work, acting city manager and myself and Kristen, and get you some more details.
Super. And you all have the list from last, I don't know if it's again in this packet, but the list of subject matter. And that was not necessarily final, but it's the ones I came up with because there are so many that affect vacant properties, whether they're occupied or not. And I have added one to that just on my base copy, and that is to address the issue of securement, again, with multiple violators. If somebody owns a property, they should be securing that property, not us. And so making sure that we've got our team between police and code, and then that we are actually writing those up and asking those owners. I used to think that we needed an extra law that was kind of like what they have for burglar alarms, where you get one free call that was unsubstantiated from the police department, that costs you $50 a pop if your alarm keeps going off and there's nothing wrong. But with the fact that we've got the capacity to do fines and through our property maintenance code, as well as I think through the TMC, if we can look at that as well on that list. So yes, that would be great. I didn't know enough about who he was even envisioning putting on the team. And so when we went into this, I was thinking we'd do it sort of like police and community did and just kind of take those topics and work them. And I'm more than happy to have a team grab them and give us a pace that you think you can handle them and push them back to us.
That sounds great. We'll give you an update next month.
Wonderful. got you off the hook too, or maybe they already drew you in because we put your name right there on the agenda in case we needed you. Love it. Any other business today? Hearing none, we will adjourn this meeting. We are scheduled to meet at the Holiday Building. I guess we're back in business there next month on July 19th at 11 a.m. Thank you all.